Hey, David Brewster here with another 3 for All, and this is 3 Michael Landau Licks from 2007. And Michael Landau is a pioneer of, studio and session work back in the 80s and 90s. Still active, very, very talented, expressive and knowledgeable, and a brilliant guitarist. And he's not really a household name. A lot of players, he's kind of the guitarist's, guitarist. But he has appeared on almost everything. And if you go back and you look at credits and some of those session appearances, there's 5 people, back in the 80s and the 90s that were just LA, studio masters or aces. Steve Lukather, Dann Huff, Dean Parks, Michael Thompson, and Michael Landau. And if you look at those 5 players and look at their bio and their work, it's really impressive. Those 5 guys played on everything, in the 80s and 90s. And this traces back to players like Tommy Tedesco, back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s. Tommy's like one of the most, recorded guitarists in history. Green Acres, Godfather, Indiana Jones, Charlie's Angels, all that stuff, that's Tommy. And then you fast forward a little bit in the 70s, you've got Larry Carlton and some of those players. And then you keep moving into the 80s and 90s, and that's where you'll find Luke and Dann Huff and, Dean Parks, Michael Thompson, and Michael Landau. But Michael's been around the block, and he's, a world-class musician. And definitely, if you're not hip to his music, he just has, millions of licks and all these expressive ideas, and just really, really exciting player. When you hear it, it's fresh, and it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I want to learn some of this. Because it doesn't really sound like anybody else. The closest I can compare would be someone like Jeff Beck. He does emulate, some of Jeff Beck's, isms and little ideas, but Michael definitely has his own style and his own approach, and it's so inspiring. But check out this list of people. He's worked with everybody. The licks in this lesson came from a live appearance with the Michael Landau Trio, and the whole concert is like an hour and a half. And trust me, if you can find it on, it's on YouTube. But when you watch that whole concert, there's a million licks. I sat there and I thought, I don't even know what to grab because there was so much happening and he was whipping out so many cool ideas. I could have made 500, Michael Landau licks from just that one concert. There was so much going on. But I did pick out some pretty cool things, and we're going to tap into some different things in this lesson. We're going to hit a very interesting mode from the melodic minor scale, Mixolydian flat 6. There's some expressive bending and just some really tasty things happening. So here we go. The first idea is this precision bending idea based around D7, and it's something like this. And really cool, you can see it starts with a precision bend, and we're in D7. Actually, the whole lesson is going to revolve around D7. But it starts with this. We're grabbing, D to E, and then you're bending that E up a whole step to F sharp. And then you're going to grab the 7, which is that C note, and then hammer on pull off to that E. And I like that kind of wide intervallic spread there. And then right there, grab the A, go back to C, slide that D back to E, and then C, E, back to C again. And then grab D and go to A. Then you're going to grab the C and bend that up a whole step. Bring it down, grab the D, and then bend that up a whole step. And I love those kind of bend and released or shift bending ideas. You can hear a lot of modern players playing with ideas like that. Guthrie Govan, there's a ton. And those precision bending ideas and shift bending ideas are really interesting because you can bring out a melody, say something like this. This is kind of what he's doing, but you're doing it with bends, like that. Or if you, continued the melody somewhere else. It almost turns into like a Steve Lukather lick right there. Adding that little pinky. And you could create some other melodies in there too. You could do something like this. But do it with bending. you know, and stuff like that. It's really interesting, and your ear picks up those little, you know, just little slurs and shifts and slides and those partial bends and stuff. Really expressive stuff, and I love that kind of phrasing. You know, you can hear Jeff Beck, Guthrie Govan, there's a ton of players, but obviously Michael Landau does it too. And here's the clip from 2007. The next idea is really cool, and it's still based around D7, but he starts flirting with D Mixolydian flat 6, which is the 5th mode of the melodic minor scale. And we're going to talk about that after I show the lick, but the lick's something like this. One more time. And I love that little half step kind of ending there, that cadence. And that's bringing out the Mixolydian flat 6, you know, mode. Which looks something like that. So it's kind of like Mixolydian, obviously, but it has a flat 6. So you've got the root, 2nd, major 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Flat 6, which is this B flat right here, and then a flat 7, which is that C. And that's Mixolydian flat 6. There's 1 octave and 2 octaves. You know, really interesting. And if you want to think about chord progressions, you could play a minor 4 and then, you know, a major 1 chord, or that 7 chord. So think of like G minor to D7, and that's going to bring out that flavor, that tonality. That's really going to bring out that flavor and tonality. Definitely love the sound of that mode. And then as far as like a single chord, you could do something like this. And that's a D flat 13. And just think of a D7 right there, but then you're gonna bar the 3rd fret there on the G string and then move that pinky over to the A there on the high E string, and you're suddenly playing D flat 13. You could also do it this way. No, I definitely love that chord. That's awesome. That'd be a D sus4 flat 13, or a G minor add 9 over D. You know, really tasty stuff. Love that sound. One more time with the lick. So cool. The next idea is this really blurry slip and slide lick, and it reminds me of some stuff that you see George Lynch playing, you know, from Dokken. But here's Michael Landau, you know, whipping stuff out like this. Really cool. Something like this. And it's really, you know, tasty, and it's very, you know, just blurry and rapid too. So slowly, he's basically doing something like this. He's kind of playing like 3 different slides in the beginning. And once again, we're still over D7, but he's doing this slowly. And then you're going to do that again. And then this, you're going to do like a double slide. So if I put all that together, you've got and then you're going to go up to the high E string. You know, really interesting. And I love how he's ending on the 6 there too. One more time. Here's a bonus lick, and this is this really cool D7, like pivot arpeggio kind of melodic idea. Really cool stuff. Something like this. And one more time there. And I love the expression and just the kind of randomness that's happening in there too. So slowly we're doing this. And one more time. And I love how he's using, you know, that F sharp as a pivot right there. And then slides into that major third, the F to F sharp. And he does it right there too, the F to F sharp. And I also like the end, where it's almost like Jeff Beck. It's like you're falling down the stairs, but you land on your feet. Because you're sliding that A to G, and you're already starting to smear it, and then you're grabbing that F sharp, which is going to sound a little bit like G, and then you're grabbing that F again and bending that to F sharp. So there's 3 of them right there. You know, in the same lick. So cool. Let me try that one more time. That was a little sloppy at the end. Something like that. But here's Michael just, you know, slaying that lick. So cool. That's going to wrap this look at 3 licks from Michael Landau from 2007. And even if you don't recognize his name or his, you know, his image or his photograph or whatever, you've heard him play guitar and you didn't even realize it. You know, up and down the radio dial, MTV, you know, whatever, you know, the 80s, the 90s, or whatever era, you've heard him play guitar. And like I said, you didn't know it. And those 5 guys I mentioned earlier, those 5 guitarists, you probably heard more than just about any guitarist, and you didn't even know. Didn't know who was playing the solo or who was playing the rhythm part. You know, it's really interesting, and I love tracing that history and going back and, you know, figuring out, you know, like, who played this, and, you know, just some of that magical music and some of those moments in time where it's like, it's so inspiring to see all of that work, and they're so prolific. And definitely, I didn't even mention it until this moment, but Michael Landau, he does switch between using his fingers and using a pick. And when I watched the concert, he was seamlessly doing it, where you didn't even notice. Like, sometimes he would end up with the pick, like right there, and he's plucking with his fingers, and then he would magically suddenly have a pick again, and then the pick would disappear. And luckily his pick was black, and you could actually see it sometimes, you know, hiding in between his fingers. And such a phenomenal guitarist, completely overlooked, and you know, massive respect for this player, you know, from other musicians. I mean, if you talked to touring musicians and world-class musicians, you'd be surprised how many people would point to Steve Lukather, Dann Huff, Michael Thompson, Dean Parks, and Michael Landau too. These guys, you know, paved the way and influenced, you know, generations of guitarists. So anyway, leave some feedback and some comments. Please subscribe to Late Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.